Hey everybody, welcome back, and today we're going to talk about the end of the war in Europe. The war's going to end in Europe, but it's still going to be waged out in the East, in Southeast Asia, and it's going to go on for quite some time more, but today we will end it! We will have victory in Europe, but not before we actually attempt to kill Hitler. Well, not us. The Nazis will attempt to turn on Hitler and kill him themselves, and it'll be unsuccessful. And we'll talk about that next in what's known as the July 20th plot. The plot to kill Hitler, or also known as the Valkyrie Plot. So, Hitler never really trusted his professional army officers, and Hitler was always worried that his army officers would attempt what was known as a coup d'etat. They would try to take over the government, kick him out of power. He was really paranoid, much like a lot of our dictators. Stalin in particular was extremely paranoid. Now, Hitler, over the years, he had replaced many of his generals either because they lost battles or because he didn't trust them, and every time casualties mounted, he would just rifle off a couple of firings just to get them out of the way and thought maybe new blood needed to come in. One of his most trusted, though, was a man by the name of Count von Stauffenberg. Right, I know, that's a nice name, isn't it? He was a Nazi general who actually had lost his left hand during World War II. Now, von Stauffenberg was inspired by the Normandy, the D-Day landings, and he decides Adolf Hitler's never going to quit fighting. It's up to us to actually get him out of the way. And so he and a number of other Nazis plot to assassinate Hitler. Von Stauffenberg decides he's going to put he's going to take a briefcase and put a bomb inside the briefcase, and he's going to take it to one of Hitler's command rooms when he knows that the Nazis are going to have a meeting. He goes in there, he slides it under the table, and he walks away. The bomb goes off, but the table is so large and Adolf Hitler is at the other end of the table that it actually kind of shields him from the explosions, and he does not die. And so, as a result, Adolf Hitler believes that God had spared him to avenge Germany to the world. He really, this psychosis, this craziness really starts to build in him even more, that he is somehow kind of like ordained to be able to fight back, right? Now, von Stauffenberg is arrested and shot at midnight by a firing squad. And one of the most tragic incidents of all of this is Erwin Rommel, who was one of Hitler's most trusted generals. Remember, the Desert Fox. He had been fighting in those tank battles in Africa. He is approached by the conspirators, but he doesn't join. He basically says, I don't really want to have any part in the killing, but I'm not really going to tell anybody that you're doing it either. It's cool, man. I don't want to be the one throwing the bomb down there, but I'm not going to say anything. As a result, when Adolf Hitler finds out about this, he's incredibly angry and he wants to punish Rommel for his actions. Rommel is actually at home in Germany at the time, recovering from wounds he had received in Africa. And while he's there, he's approached by the Nazi government, and they tell him, you have two choices. The first choice is you can take poison and receive a state funeral and be regarded as a hero and say that, we'll tell everybody you died peacefully from your injuries and it'll be fine, and you'll be a living legend, or well, a dead legend, but you'll be a legend for the rest of your days. Or you can refuse, and we will drag your whole family out and we'll kill them, and then we'll turn around and we'll kill you. And as you can imagine, Rommel says, I'll take the first choice. That sounds like a better one. And so he goes out into the woods, he takes his cyanide capsules, and he dies. And as far as everybody in Germany knows, Erwin Rommel dies of his injuries, and he is given a state funeral, and he is paraded as a hero and a champion of the Reich and a great person to emulate and follow. And this is a big blow to the Nazis. This was a great general that they'd had. He had been very skillful in his attack maneuvers. He had been very successful. It's a huge blow to lose this. One of the repercussions, though, that happens from all of this is Adolf Hitler becomes very hardened that he is going to fight to the death now. He actually does the very thing that the Valkyrie conspirators were afraid he would do, which is fight to the death. But eventually he will lose, and we will get victory in Europe. And it starts because of those Normandy invasions. The Allies had been moving across France, and they had planned to invade Germany. And by the summer of '44, the German forces were defeated by the Soviets at the Battle of Kursk in the east. It was one of the greatest tank battles of all time. We'll talk about this a little more in class, but basically just understand that, again, the Soviets are coming from the east. The rest of the Allies, the Germans, or the British and the French and the Americans are coming from the west and from the south, and they are closing in on Germany. Now, on September 16th, 1944, the German forces mount a last and desperate attack called the Battle of the Bulge. And at first, the Germans pushed the Allied forces, but after several weeks of fighting, they eventually collapse and cannot win themselves. And at the end of it all, there's over 750 casualties that happen because of the Battle of the Bulge. And it really depletes the German army and starts to bring them to their knees. And at this point, you can kind of see that the inevitable is going to happen, that victory will happen and the Germans will fail in their global conquest. Now, by March of 1945, the Allied troops cross into the Rhineland and advance towards Berlin. By mid-April, Adolf Hitler had moved into his secret bunker that was 55 feet below the city of Berlin, and he begins to direct the war from there. He starts to see the writing on the wall, and by April 30th, not long after his birthday actually, happy birthday Hitler, he ends up committing suicide because he knows that the end is near and he will lose this war. Rightfully so. He orders that his body be burned in the courtyard so that it cannot be taken and used as propaganda for the rest of the world to see. And when Berlin actually does fall to the Soviets have really kind of a great time there. They blow up the Reichstag and knock off the Iron Eagle that's on top. That's what's on this picture right down here. This is actually them knocking it over. Many of the citizens start coming out to see what's going on. The Soviets also had chalk, and they would write all over the walls these messages to Hitler, which I'll try to show you some photos of that tomorrow. All of these, messages mocking the Nazis and mocking Hitler for all the things they had done and how they were going to, supposed to be the super race, yet they were defeated by the Allies. It's a big celebration, when they do finally take them down. The Soviets raised their flag over Berlin. You even see down here underneath right there. Yes, right there. There's a guy who has a Soviet soldier who is carrying off a bronze head of Adolf Hitler from a statue that he had taken. So this is a big deal when they fall. Now, Adolf Hitler, remember, he was in his bunker. He does get married to his wife Eva Braun. And she also commits suicide at the same time. She drinks poison. And all of this happens 2 days after Mussolini's been shot. So two of the world's most brutal dictators for the Axis powers are gone within 2 days of each other. This is major. Europe falls, like I said, very quickly because of all of this. On May 7th, 1945, the German commanders end up surrendering, and they officially ends the war in Europe. It's huge celebrations. There's ticker tape parades in all the major cities around the world. People are exuberant, but the battle and the fight is not over with, because we have the battle in the Pacific, which we will talk about next time. Until then, make sure you have all of this in your notes. If you have any questions, make sure you add those into your notes as well, and I will see you all tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day. Bye, everybody.